Hi everyone, this is Darren with SimNation. Just continuing the tutorials around the Steelers and the game planning that I normally do from week to week. This week will be a little bit different because I'm going to approach the game after the game's already been played. I'll talk about in the beginning about kind of what I was thinking, and then I'll show you what the result was. Um, so Previously in week 16, I was playing Baltimore. It's a team I had beaten in week 3. They are one of the better CPU teams within the league in WWPF. So much of that has to do with Kevin. Kevin did a really good job of building them up. They haven't really changed. I mean, they lost arguably probably one of the better quarterbacks in the league to free agency, but overall, still a pretty solid team. And it's a team that's going into the playoffs. So, one of the things about Baltimore that, if we take a look at them just in general, and we're just going to avoid some of the other stuff, is a lot of times what you're looking for whenever you do these game plans is to kind of look back and see what they've done. I will tell you, Baltimore is a very pass-heavy team. They like to throw the ball. They can run the ball too. But when I was doing the game planning here, what I was assuming is that they were going to throw the ball. I think the pattern I was looking at was just essentially that I needed to guard against the pass on every single down. Now, I was fortunate in this game that McCracken, who is a starting quarterback normally, was questionable. So he was actually out for this game, which kind of helped me a little bit. Um, but even without McCracken, they still have a pretty good wide receiver core. One of the challenges that Baltimore also presents is it's really hard to game plan for them. They are a CPU team, yes, which is normally quite easy to game plan for, but I suspect that Kevin was using formations, which is why I am going to have a little bit harder time game planning this than I normally would because when people use formations, it just makes things a little bit harder to try to guess and figure out, especially if they're actively tweaking those formations. But going into this game, and we'll take a look at the roster real quick, and then this will help explain kind of my reasoning and my thoughts. Is like I said, McCracken was out, so that meant that either Clark or Faison were going to get the start. Doesn't matter which, they were likely going to throw the ball no matter what. I do have to account a little bit for Zachary Grady because one, he's fast, and two, I need to be prepared for him to come out of the backfield and attack essentially my safeties and my linebackers. I will say the line is rock solid, though really hard to plan for. I think what I saw was Schultz as the left tackle, Cade as the right tackle, and I watched game film to see this, which means the left tackle was really solid, the right tackle was not. So I'm going to attack the right tackle, which means that I need to make sure that I have my best pass rusher on the uh, left defensive end position. And then when we look at the guards, if I remember correctly, were I think it was like Ortega and Jacobson, if I remember correctly. So again, Ortega really solid. I'm not going to get much on this side. So what I'm going to try to do on the left side, which is my right side on the defense, is I'm just going to try to nullify them. So what that means is I'm going to probably put some of my stronger people over there, my best overall defensive end over there, not my best pass rusher. And I'll explain who that is in a second, and we'll go kind of into what I did and why I did it. But on the other side, as you can see, Jacobson is not very good against the pass rush. So again, if I stack myself right on the left side of my line, I should be able to exploit them pretty much. The center is really good, so there's no point in even going after him. It's Carl Rankin, who in the passing game, because they're going to pass a lot, I'm not going to be able to do much against him. I may be able to get past him on agility, and I may try that with a defensive tackle. I didn't, by the way, because I just didn't think I would be able to exploit that weakness. The tight end is Sung. Again, this is one of the problems with the CPU. The tight end really should be McMahon, but it's Sung and Klein, which again, no speed disadvantage here. I should be able to deal with this. Plus, the agility is such that most of my corners or most of my safeties and even my linebackers will be able to cover them. Now, the wide receiver core does present an issue to me. As you can see, there's a lot of speed here, especially with Angle and Greenwood. They're starting two wide receivers. Wide receiver one is traditionally Culp. Wide receiver two is Alvarez. Greenwood's three, and I think Angle is four. So my nickel backs are going to have to be fast, or my safeties are going to have to be fast to deal with these two. Inside, I still need to have some speed, but I also need to have some agility and good first step if I'm going to negate them. Alvarez is one of the better wide receivers in the league. Culp is underrated in my opinion. I think that he is actually a really good wide receiver as well. So that's kind of how the offense looks. So in general, what I've observed about them is that they are a balanced offense. They lean towards long passing, so I'll have to think about that in my game planning. Um, and generally, a lot of the runs are going to come off of after they've passed a few times. On defense, the defense is a little bit. I think what I saw from watching the film is the defense plays a lot of balanced playbooks or just the generic balanced coach playbooks on first and third. They play pass defense generally on fourth on the long downs, medium downs. On the first down, it's balanced. Short, it's run. And run is short across the board whenever, regardless of down. But on medium, on second down, I think what I saw was that they were running a lot more running type defenses, which leads me to think that the CPU is probably keying off of the run on second and medium. And then again, there's a lot of passes. So the reason why this is important is it gives you an idea of what plays to run against the defense. Um, the CPU is generally pretty easy to defend against because normally their pattern is something like B balanced run, balanced pass, run, pass, pass, or run, run, pass, and then run, pass, pass, run, pass, pass. And those are different downs, so it's first, second, third, fourth down. Um, CPU is pretty easy to guess depending on it. So if they're all pass, then it's just going to be all pass, right? But I think that's the pattern I have seen in the games. So I'm going to try to use that pattern to my advantage. I did look at previous games. I watched the games as well. I looked at the staff just to make sure that I know what the coaching staff is good at, so I don't fall into certain things that may hurt me. As you can see, is Henry Locke. He is a spread 3-4 hybrid. He's a spread 3-5. So both of his coaches are 3-4 hybrids. The good news about a 3-4 hybrid is they're going to rely on the linebackers. The linebackers are not great. They're pretty decent, but they're just not great. And if we look at the defense just real quick, at defensive end, I think it was McGuire and Kincaid, if I remember correctly. McGuire's the right end, Kincaid's the left end. So if you look at that, McGuire is a speed demon. He's going to be faster than anyone I have, so he's probably going to get some sacks just because of it. But I probably should just make sure that I think about maybe putting someone strong over here to just knock him on his ass. Kincaid's again fast, but he's a little bit harder to deal with because he has got decent strength and he's smart, whereas McGuire's not. Defensive tackle, they're going to run a lot of nose tackle sets. So probably what's going to happen here is you're going to end up with uh, I think it was Catalina was the guy I saw. I may be wrong on that, but again, Catalino he's got strength, he's got good speed. Again, Kevin did a pretty good job. He's just not a good tackler. And then when you look at the linebacker core, they don't have depth. So Van Buren, if I remember correctly, is playing more in the center. Patagina is out on the wing. I think he was like right outside linebacker or something like that. But again, I'm not really worried about his linebackers. Cornerback wise, again, not great speed. I actually should have some good matchups. He'll, because of the lack of depth, he'll graze the CB1 if I remember correctly. Dinkins is CB2. But when they play nickel, they are actually playing with safeties for the most part. And again, Joyner is someone I just want to stay away from. He is really good. Um, he was good when he was drafted by Kevin. He's still good even now. Um, but I think that if I remember correctly, Pike is one of the nickel backs. And then on strong safety side, I can pretty much get away with a lot with the strong safeties because not very fast in any way, shape, or form, which means I should be able to deal with Trask, who was the starter. And then I think the Stanton is one of the nickel backs. Again, not I should be able to exploit the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. I just got to be careful with wide receiver 3 because they may line up against the free safety. And I generally want to avoid Joyner. So if we go to Pittsburgh, which is my team that I played with, uh, before I show you the result, I'll just kind of go into what I did. I didn't make huge changes here from the previous game because I didn't feel I needed to. Pierce is back, which is a good thing. It'll help ease some of the pressure on Lackey. Um, I generally didn't move much around. I kept the same set because this is working for me right now. Now, when I show you the result, I do need to make some changes because it didn't go quite as I wanted it to. But Crook is one of my better pass blockers. He's also a good run blocker. He has okay strength, but he's got decent speed and good agility. So I put him on the left tackle to try to see if he could slow them down. And then, of course, on the right side is Romero, who again is decent. He's not great. I definitely have to invest in tackles in the offseason because my offensive line's gotten pretty slow and pretty weak. McClendon is on the left side. He's there because, again, he's a solid pass blocker. He's got decent strength. He's not going to really knock anybody down, though. Elliott Hall, I use a lot just because he's a good pass blocker. I could use Shipley Hill, but again, my line has generally been doing well, and I just don't want to disrupt it. And Hall gets hurt a lot, so I'm a little bit more hesitant to not use him. Although for the next series of games, I'm probably going to move him back to. I'm sorry, I have Hall already, though. I don't know why I was talking about Shipley. Oh, never mind. I'm probably going to move Shipley uphill to right guard. Seidel is still the my passing down. Gillespie's my running down. So no real changes here. I pretty much kept it same from the previous game. On defense, I did make changes here, mostly again because I'm trying to think about how I can really attack that right side of the line, which is my left side. So um, Bruce Ricks is, I know Perry looks better on paper, but Ricks is better actually overall because of that 70 agility. Um, and also, I want Perry because he's kind of better just. Ricks is a better pass rusher because of the agility. Perry's a better overall defensive end. So I want Perry on the left tackle to try to start negating that. I want Bruce Ricks on the right tackle because I think he can blow past him. I do run a lot of 4-3. I run a pretty hybrid defense just in general where I will use a lot of different formations, including 5-2. But that was the goal there. And then if we look at defensive tackle, um, again, I'm trying to negate the um, right side of my line, which is our left. So you'll see Wade Miller over there, and what I'm trying to do again is just kind of slow them down, whereas I'm using Corey Hubbard to try to kind of disrupt that left side a little bit more. The other thing is I moved Adam Lyons over to left outside linebacker. He's normally my right outside linebacker, but the reason for doing that is his 93 speed. My hope is he could get into the backfield and kind of cause some disruption. Didn't really make changes here other than to flip Lyons and Mosley. Um, Again, because I'm worried about those wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4, what I decided to do was I kept Burke where he is because I want to negate Culp. Um, And then I brought Spite, who doesn't give up a whole lot to Alvarez, but he does give up some, but he's one of my better overall cornerbacks. And then I moved Lewis, who normally is cornerback too, over to nickelback, and then I brought Travis into that to do that. Now, the reality is, in hindsight, I probably should have taken either Chin or Coggins and moved them up, and I'll show you why. Because you see, Coggins has 90. He's actually a pretty decent coverage um, safety, and then of course you have Chin, who is also a pretty decent one. I could have actually flipped Coggins up and moved him here, and then moved Ashbury over. But for those 4-3 sets, Ashbury and Whitfield would get, depending on the set I'm using, would likely get the wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. So that's kind of the convoluted thought process I had about what I was doing. Strategy wise, I decided to throw the ball a lot more in this one, which I had been doing previous 2 games. It probably didn't work that well. So this is not normal for me, but coming out of the previous game, which I think was like against Indianapolis or something like that, I had had some good success, so I was like, let's just do it again. I did modify the defense. I kind of took into account that they were going to pass the ball. AZD Oakland is one of my more balanced playbooks, but what I want to do is guard against the short. That kind of hurt me a little bit, but it didn't hurt me too much. And you can see I'm not blitzing overly too much, except for on 1st and 10, 2nd and medium, and 3rd and medium, which is something I normally do. Again, when you do 100, I'm not using my playbook anymore. I'm using the Blitz playbook. This was actually set to, I think, Culp, if I remember correctly, but because it's the game after it reset. Pretty much, I was going to keep my long passing game. I was going to keep going outside. That hurt me, actually. I should have went medium, and I should have probably went balanced. So, mea culpa. Jeffrey Haynes is one of my better tight ends, so I was aiming for him because I was trying to create matchup issues. I kept aggressive. Again, I go with not set and none a lot because I just want the defensive coordinator to call the plays. I have a decent defensive coordinator. There's no reason why I shouldn't let him call the plays. And now, if we look at the result of it, what you'll see is um, my team did generally pretty well. I had a lot of issues with completions, which is what you would expect. So just a messy game, 24 degrees, had wind. Don't know how much that matters. Pittsburgh just sucked at third down efficiency in this game. But generally, the defense did pretty good. The offense was okay with just because they had long plays. But this is a good stat for me, 276, 22 out of 50. The quarterbacks were averaging almost 300 yards a game, so I kept them under that, which is always a good thing. Negated the rushing attack again, which is what I was aiming for. My rushing attack was nothing to write home about, but it was better. I created 1 turnover and I generally controlled the ball, which were all the things I was trying to do. But you can see Pierce struggled in this one. That had to do with I went with a long passing game and that wasn't the right call. I should have went with medium. Silake had a pretty good game. I could have probably run him a little bit more and I probably should have. Dio and Flores did pretty good. Haynes didn't really get the ball at all, and that's probably where some of the incompletions came in. And then if we look at the defense, generally I got the pressure I wanted. Ricks won the battle off that side more times than not, and he put a ton of pressure on the quarterback, which is what I was hoping to do. Now, the sad thing is Faison was my backup quarterback last season, and he's been in and out of Pittsburgh for a while. But if you notice, tons of pressure, some good pass defenses. Mosley got a pick, um, and generally they did pretty good. I didn't get many sacks outside of that, but the way I measure this is actually probably one of my better games in creating pressure. The Pittsburgh defense has just struggled a little bit because I've been playing with the playbook. But generally, it was a win, and I got what I wanted out of it against a pretty good team. Now, I will need to account for some things in the next game, and I'll talk about that in a video here shortly. But hopefully, that gives you a little bit of insight into what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. Um, again, if anyone sees any value in it, I'll watch a game with you and I'll kind of start explaining how I jot down and what my thoughts are. But I can't stress enough that between watching the game or just going in and seeing, uh, that's not what I wanted, but let's go hill and we'll give it a second. So a lot of times what I like to do is I look at losses that CPU teams have. I'll go to play analysis and then I'll look and see what plays were working against them. And if you need a quick cheat, it's not really a cheat. It's a quick way of doing things. Is there's no harm in looking at what other teams have done against a team and then seeing what worked and what didn't, and then use what worked as long as your people can support that. And I think that's the key. So like I didn't do that in this game. I generally know Baltimore pretty well because I play them all the time. But you could also take a look at the Jets. Really, those are the only losses that they had. But if you look back at the Jets threw a ball a lot, which was generally how the Jets play. You'd be able to look at the play analysis again, see the plays that are working, and then look at that play in the playbook to see what it is, and then kind of match up against it. So if you have fast wide receivers and you notice it's a long passing play, it probably is going to work for you. If it's a medium, probably will work. If it's short passing, you probably want to make sure you have wide receivers have good agility. Speed does matter in all cases, but agility is also good to have in short passing game. And definitely make sure you have a quarterback who has good accuracy if you're throwing short to medium as opposed to medium to long. So that's it for now. Hopefully you find value in this video. Hopefully it helps. If you have specific questions, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. And if you want to join our league, just hit me up on Discord and we'll get you into the league. Have a great night.